Something just shifted in the Toronto real estate market, and it's not what people expected to happen this fall. I'm Kevin Yu, and in this video, we're going to cover September 2025's TRREB's data. And you know what? The information paints a very interesting picture that I have never seen in many, many years. Prices are going in one direction, while sales is going the other. This doesn't typically happen, and it looks like buyer psychology is starting to change pretty quickly. And you've been waiting to buy or sell or do both. The data is going to surprise you. So let's take a look at what's happening in Toronto. And let's look at the different types of homes that we're going to be covering today. We're going to cover detached homes, semi-detached, townhouses, condos, and condo townhouses. This will give you a very good picture about what's really going on. So as a whole, as you can see right now, ever including every single property type, we're over here, where September 2025, year over year, sales activity has almost increased 10% from a year ago. Having said that, last fall was very slow. So anything above that is fantastic. So that's one thing. Sales are up as a whole with all the different types of properties. But when you look at average pricing is sitting over here. We're a little bit down from last year, about 1%. But when you look at trends, when you look at the yearly trend, which takes away all the ups and downs, we're slightly lower than we were back in 2023. Not huge, because we're sitting about $1,089,000 average prices, and back in 2023, 1.1. So typically about the same. We're $20,000 difference, not a huge difference. The other thing that we look at also median prices. These are the middle prices, because this takes away all the outliers, the high and the lows, right? Just to give you an idea what's going on. When you look at it that way, we're actually down almost 4% in average prices. The other thing we look at is also how many new listings are coming on the market. Do we have like a huge influx? So when we're looking at new listings, we're about the same as last year, and from compared to last month for month, we're obviously increased, because September typically has a lot more listings compared to August. August, people are on vacation. September, people are back. The fall market has started. The other stat that we look at, we take a look at how many active listings there are. These are not just new listings, but what's sitting on the market right now. When we're looking at what's sitting on the market, we're about 8% higher than last year. So sales are increased, but also active listings have increased. But what type of market are we in? That's one thing that really matters in terms of the speed. Like, how long does it take to deplete the current supply? When we're looking at month of inventory, like all properties right now, looking at all properties, you see that we're seeing about 5 months of inventory. That's clearly a buyer's market. Anything above 3 is a buyer's heading towards buyer's market. Anything like 3 or under, that's a seller's market. Sitting around 3-ish to 4, that's a balanced market. So we're clearly in a buyer's market. Let's look at all the different properties. Let's look at detached homes in Toronto. Detached homes in Toronto, we're in a balanced market right now. So that's one thing. If you're looking to move up right to that detached home, you might be able to negotiate. You might not have to be part of a multiple offer. So, but what's happening with average prices for detached homes? They're about the same as they were a year ago. So they haven't shifted too much. Just that maybe when we're looking at what's happening there in terms of detached homes, we see that in September where increased sales volume has increased about 10%. But prices have not really moved that much. So that means buyers are really negotiating, and sellers are finally coming into conclusion that the market has shifted, that we're not always on an upward trajectory. Because when we're looking at the amount of active listings right now, amount of active listings for detached home, we're up about 23%. So that's your reason why detached homes are not adjusting prices, not going up. Surprisingly, it's not coming down by a lot. We might see that in October or November, to be honest, because if we're 23% higher in terms of active listings, it means properties are not really selling. If they're not selling, the prices will come down, assuming that buyers are still buying at the same rate. But let's take a look at semi-detached homes. Semi-detached homes usually, on average, cost about $1 to $1.5 million in Toronto, that is. And then when we're looking at semi-detached homes, you can see that active listings are up 13%. But let's look at sales activity. So they're up 13%. And sales activity is up about 17%. So semi-detached homes seem to be performing pretty well. it looks like that the number of active listings are being absorbed. So what's happening with prices because of that? When I look at prices for semi-detached homes, they're still down about 10%. If they're down by 10%, that doesn't make sense when you think of it. Price activity's up, the listings is about the same. Right? So what this also means is that the sales that are taking place, that buyers are still negotiating hard. There's a month of inventory for a semi-detached home in Toronto right now. We're in a seller's market at 2.6. So when we looked at prices earlier, we looked at average prices. When you look at median prices, that gives you a good indication. We're still down 8% compared to the 10% when we look at average prices. So it looks like there was a spike at one time for prices for homes last year, and because of the what's happening with the market right now, where buyers are smart, they're negotiating hard, they're pushing down on prices. So that means there's some buying opportunities right now. So let's take a look at quickly condo apartments. Condo apartments, you can see for the prices have been a downward trajectory. As we know, they're still selling, but not selling at the same rate as they were at one time. At one time, they were over here where sales volume was very high, but this was back in 2023, right? But now we're over here. Year over year, we're actually up from last year, 4%. That means condo buyers are finally coming back on the market. And we know the prices are coming down because we know that this data point for sure is what's causing probably one of the issues. Not issues, but what's pushing prices down is that active listings, they're only up about 1% compared to a year ago. But month over month, we're up about 2%. Right? At one time, there's a lot more active listings over here. And this supply over here is finally getting absorbed to over here, which is good. So condo market is getting some life right now. It means that if you're sitting on a condo and you're looking to sell, might be opportunities coming up. But having said that, when we look at months of inventory, this is at how much supply there is, what type of market we're in. We're still clearly in a buyer's market with 6 months of inventory. And if you have the condo to sell, how long does it usually take to sell? In current market, 40 days, up about 15% over a year ago. Last year, it took about 35 days, took about 40 days right now. So the last thing we're going to take a look at are condo townhouses. Because a lot of people are upgrading from condos and condo townhouses to, the house that they always wanted. Because there are some buying opportunities right now. But usually in this market, you probably want to sell first before you buy. So how long does it take to sell a condo townhouse in Toronto? About 36 days. It's up 22% compared to last year. What's happening with prices with condo townhouses? Prices, you can see the downward pressure on it. We're down about 8% in prices compared to last year. When we look at median, same sort of thing. We're down about 1%, but again, you can see the downward trend on the graph. How about transaction volume? How many sales are happening with condo townhouses? We're up about 43% compared to last year. That's fantastic. That means the condo townhouse buyers are back. Looks like they're back right now. A couple more things for you to look at. How many active listings are there with condo townhouses? We're up about 14% in terms of active listings. That's what's sitting on the market. And what type of market are we in for condo townhouses? We're at 5 months of inventory. So a buyer's market, but it looks like it might be trending towards a balanced market soon. So just to reiterate, just to summarize, what's going on with the market in Toronto? We know that depending on what you're buying and selling, there are different markets that's happening in Toronto. It's always been like that. Sometimes, it's a strong seller's market in all inventory, but in certain markets like today, depending on what you're selling, what you're buying, it's totally different. But as a whole, we can see that buyers are getting confident. Maybe because the last rate drop has caused some buyers to come back in the market because they're seeing that interest rates are trending towards the correct way. The affordability is getting a little bit better. You see prices as a whole has been being pushed down in a lot of the segments. Detached homes have been a little bit more resilient in pricing, as we always known, but sitting inventory has increased about 20%. Does that mean that in the next couple of months, there's going to be downward pressure on these type of properties? We'll see. With choices and buyers are still buying at roughly the same rate, what usually happens logically is that prices get pushed down because when buyers have choices, they usually go and negotiate hard or find the places that have the best value. Condos, finding some life, back into that market. We're still clearly in a buyer's market. But if you sell smart, that means that your price in today's prices, not even 6 months ago, today's prices, meaning the last 30 days, meaning the last 2 weeks, then your chances of selling has increased. But it still takes about 30 days to sell, which you have to take that in consideration if you're doing like a move up. Condo townhouses as well. There's some life that's going back into that market, but prices have been pushed down the last little while. So are we at the bottom? We don't know yet. By the time the data comes out, if we were at the bottom, you would have missed it because data is usually about 30 days behind the market. The only way you could tell what's really happening in the market is if you go out and go see places. Keep an eye on what's selling. And as a whole, rely on a realtor that gives you probably a lot more data that you could probably find compared to what's online. Hopefully this video was helpful. Like and subscribe for future informational videos just like this. Thanks again. See you soon.